That's no registered vessel." The words came out flat, confused, not fearful yet. Fleet Commander Rel Tharn stood over the ops terminal, arms folded, tail flicking with annoyance. The holographic silhouette of the unknown ship hovered. Mitter, spinning slowly. No cum signature, no transponder code. "Could be a smuggler," said Tactical Officer Vex, tapping a glyph. "But something's off." "Define off," Tharn muttered. "It's headed straight for us." That line hit harder. The command bridge of the Crown Light went still. Outside, stars passed in slow arcs across the window grid, peaceful and quiet until now. "Fast?" "Not fast," Vex said. "That's the thing. It's moving slow. Too slow for a collision course. But it's not changing vector." Tharn narrowed his eyes. "Put it on main screen." The image blinked up black hull, no lights. No obvious engines. It didn't glow. It absorbed light. A floating absence. Like something hollow. Wearing a shell dot, it wasn't menacing because of what it showed. It was menacing because of what it didn't. "How long until intercept range?" Tharn asked. 17 minutes. Launch 2 probes. Full scan. Aye, sir. The probes. Shot forward, silent as bullets in the dark. They never came back. No explosion. No static. They just vanished. Glitch? Tharn asked, hoping. Vix shook his head slowly. "We sent identical backup probes 10 seconds later." "Same thing? Maybe some kind of cloaking field?" "Then why can we still see it?" A long pause. "Put me through." "To Imperial Nexus Command," Tharn said, but the transmission never connected. Instead, a single line of text appeared across the screen. "No further relays necessary." Everyone froze. No, Vex said, his voice rising. "That wasn't us." "No input, no uplink, no. It's in our system," Tharn whispered. "Then we shut it out. Can't." The lights on the bridge dimmed not fully. Just enough to let shadows stretch across their faces. Then the vessel on screen shifted. Not like it turned, like space itself. Bent around a dot and suddenly it was closer. Did it move? Vex snapped. I don't know." "It's not accelerating," Tharn said. "It's just less far away." In the background, the ship's ambient AI began speaking to itself, parsing unknown. Pattern match denied, query origin non-computable. It was panicking. Tharn had seen ships panic. He'd never seen the systems panic. "Should we fire?" Vex asked. "If we were facing anything normal, maybe." Tharn stepped closer to the screen. The ship had markings now. Symbols glowing in a red. That didn't radiate light symbols they didn't recognize. Alien? No. Older. Primitive by design. Not lacking detail, but hiding it. Intentionally, he leaned in and the symbol changed. Not animated. Responsive. Now it showed a closed hand. Then an eye. Then nothing. "Back it off," Tharn ordered. "Send every alert beacon we have." "Too late," Vex whispered. "Sir, incoming transmission, not audio." "What is it?" Vex swallowed. A countdown. They watched the numbers tick. Slow. Relentless. No explanation. No terms. Just the truth. Something was coming. And that was before Earth even responded. T-minus 0:06:12. It glowed in the center of the command. Bridge. Red. Minimal. Unchanging. No noise. No sound. Just a silent reminder that something had decided the clock was ticking, and they weren't the ones who started it. Fleet Commander Rel Tharn had fought in 27 engagements. He'd commanded battles over 4 star systems. He'd seen planets burn, but this was the first time he didn't feel like a commander. He felt like a character in someone else's story. "Still no communication," said Vex. His voice, once crisp, now sounded like it had aged in the last few minutes. "The feed's still active. It's waiting. Waiting for what? Tharn asked, though he already knew the answer. For us to respond. The unregistered vessel floated dead ahead closer now. Not by motion. Not by impulse. Like it had simply reduced the space between them through will. I don't think it's even accelerating, said Vex. Sensors show no thrust. But it's approaching. It's not moving, said Lieutenant Saren quietly from the nav post. The stars behind it are. Like space is realigning around it. Everyone turned dot because that wasn't something you just say. Tharn leaned over the console. Explain. Imagine the universe is a table, Saren said, not looking up. And that ship isn't a piece on the table. It's a hand beneath it, lifting the fabric. You're saying it's not navigating through space. No. Sir, she said, I'm saying it's redefining it. Another ping. T minus 0 hours 5 minutes and 0 seconds. Still no ID? Vix shook his head. Nothing in our files. Not human, not independent, not guild-built, not pirate. The shape doesn't match anything we've ever logged. What is it? They all looked at the screen. No one had an answer, because by now, they understood they weren't scanning a ship. They were being seen by it. Back at the Imperial Nexus, chaos was already brewing. Dozens of emergency channels flooded the network fleets reporting silent incursions, sensors rebooting in loops, COMMS relays flickering with red symbols no one could translate. The Core Defense Archive attempted a full system-wide scan to triangulate the unregistered vessel's path. Their response came as a single file. No path. Destination. Everything. Inside. The crown light, the lights began to pulse. Not dimming. Pulsing. In rhythm with the countdown. T minus 0 hours 3 minutes and 57 seconds. Sir, Vic said, there's something else. What now? I tried to jam the signal. The countdown feed. And? I can't. Why not? Because it's not broadcasting. Tharn blinked. Then how are we seeing it? We're not, Vic said slowly. It's inside us. He pulled the display up. The signal isn't external. It's in our ship, our systems, our air filtration. I just checked. It's running off power we didn't authorize. It's drawing from us. We're hosting. It, Saren whispered. Tharn's breath caught in his throat. Run an override. Shut everything down. Cold reboot. Vix had already tried. Nothing responded. Everything flickered once. Like a blink. Then came the voice. Not through speakers. Through thought. This is not punishment. This is record. Every crew member heard it, each in their own language, their own cadence. Not words. Understanding. THARN stood. What does it want? I think. Vix hesitated, as if the thought itself were poison. I think it's not here for us. Then why are we the ones getting counted down? T minus 0 hours 2 minutes and 0 seconds. On the outer edges of the system, Empire scout vessel Cinder Echo arrived at the Crown Light's location. They never hailed. They never approached. They just stopped and watched, because there it was, the unregistered vessel, still unmoving, still unarmed, and more terrifying than any fleet they'd ever encountered. We have visuals. The Cinder Echo's captain said, recording. No aggression, but I don't think this is war. Then what is it? Asked his second. It's a moment. T minus 0 hours 1 minute and 0 seconds. Back on the Crown Light, the AI stopped responding. Life support stayed on. Gravity held, but the interface no longer lit up. No alarms. No protocols. Just stillness. Anything on hull cams? Tharn asked. Vix turned the feed. Everyone felt silent, because the unknown vessel had changed. Now it bore a message on its hull. Not painted. Etched. Words burned into it by force like a grave marker. This is not the beginning of war. It is the end of pretending. T-minus 0 hours 0 minutes and 30 seconds. The bridge filled with quiet motion officers gripping rails, eyes flicking between the timer and the void, hearts beating louder than the ship's engines. Tharn stepped forward, and for the first time in his life, he didn't issue a command. He just stared, because maybe that's what you do when you're being judged. You stand. STILLT minus 0 o'clock 05. No escape pods launched. No weapons armed. No prayers whispered. T minus 0 hours 0 minutes and 1 second. The timer froze. A breath. A blink. And then nothing. No explosion. No scream. Just the ship. Gone. Vanished. As if it had never been. But the damage had already been done. Because now they knew. The vessel was never trying to attack. It didn't need to. It was simply a mirror. And what it reflected back was fear. There were no scorch marks. No damage. Not a scratch on the crown lights hull. The logs recorded nothing abnormal, except that everyone on board remembered everything. Every heartbeat. Every second of the countdown, and the vessel that had hovered in front of them like a question no one wanted to answer. Fleet Commander Rel Tharn stood in the debrief chamber, silent. A dozen officers flanked him, all of them staring ahead like statues, still wearing their uniforms, still alive but changed. "We've analyzed the footage," the Empire's intelligence minister said, trying to inject calm. "It could be advanced Terran technology cloaking, psychic warfare, possibly a soft assault using deep-wave neurosync." "No," Tharn said. The word landed like a blunt weapon. "No, it wasn't Terran." "You're sure?" "Terrans respond with force. With fury. This wasn't fury. This was—" He hesitated. The word didn't come easy. "Deliberate." "Deliberate how?" Tharn looked up, eyes not quite focused, like we were never the target, just the audience. A silence followed, too long, too heavy. "You're saying this ship ignored us?" Tharn gave a slow nod. "It was measuring something else. We just happened to be there." He didn't add the rest out loud, "and it let us live. Across the Galactic. Sectors, ripple spread. No announcements. Just quiet. The kind of silence that wasn't peace. But pause. Military drills were suspended. Border stations reduced scans. Merchant fleets altered routes to avoid systems near Earth space, even if Earth hadn't moved an inch. Because it wasn't. Earth, they feared now. It was what Earth might have released. In a black site research archive. Near the edge of the Vesker loop, an AI flagged something it had never flagged before. An unclassified match with Forbidden's Earth War code, marked extinct 3 centuries ago. The file was simple. No encryption. Just a statement. The archive ship was not built. It was awakened. On the Council Nexus, panic had matured into argument. Nothing was fired. No laws were broken. A delegate from the Cryon sector shouted, "Then why can't we explain?" "What happened?" demanded another. "How do you log a vessel that arrives without arriving? How do you calculate fear?" Chancellor Viren rose from her seat. Her voice was calm, but the tremor in her hands betrayed her. "This wasn't an act of aggression," she said. "It was a reminder of scale. We thought ourselves at the top, but something is beneath us, and far, far older." Someone scoffed. "You're suggesting Earth held this back?" "I'm suggesting Earth was never holding it." And that silenced the room again. Because now there was another fear brewing, not that Earth sent the vessel, but that it didn't, that they were just as surprised as the Empire. Back on the Crown Light, the crew moved like ghosts through systems that still worked perfectly. Saren sat alone in the nav bay, staring out at the stars. She hadn't spoken since the countdown ended. When Tharn found her, she didn't look up. "You feel it too, don't you?" she asked quietly. "What?" "The wrongness. Not danger. Not threat. Just like we peeked through a keyhole that wasn't meant for us. He said nothing. She finally turned to him. "Do you know what I saw in the final second?" He did. They'd all seen it, but he let her speak. "I saw myself," she said, "standing in a ruin, holding something. A memory that wasn't mine, a war one hadn't fought, a surrender I never gave." Tharn swallowed. It matched what he saw. And what? Vex described before collapsing in the medbay. Visions of things no one could confirm, past battles that had never happened. Future wars already lost. The archive ship hadn't shown them fear. It had shown them reflection. And not just of who they were, of who they could have been. Or might still become. In a small Terran listening station hidden beneath the crust of an old mining moon. Alarms had begun pinging. Not outward. Inward. Signals bouncing back. Old protocols activating. No message from Earth Command. But the technician, a woman named Lyra, saw something on her console she didn't recognize. A pattern burned into the frequency. She looked at her partner. "This isn't ours." "Then who?" "I don't know," she whispered. The screen shifted. A phrase appeared. Not in Terran, but they understood it anyway. "It has returned to silence. You have not." She stood. Slowly backed away from the console, because whatever that ship had been, it was still watching. Empire-wide. A new directive was issued. Unregistered vessels approaching Terran space were to be left alone. No scans. No pursuit. The command was labeled Order Varn Ix. Unofficially, they called it the Mirror Rule. You don't chase what reflects your worst self back at you. You don't interrogate the gods when they're silent. And you never, ever follow them home. On a cliff at Earth's edge, a single man stood, older, weathered, quiet. He had no rank anymore. No orders to give, but he felt it. The moment it disappeared, the shift in the sky, not like something ended, like something finished. Taking notes, he lit a flame, more for warmth than symbolism, and whispered, "To no one, you weren't ours. But thank you. Because sometimes the scariest thing isn't a weapon. It's a truth that doesn't need to shout. And now, the Empire had seen it. The official report called it an anomaly, a non-hostile appearance of a rogue, unregistered vessel within high security airspace, resulting in no physical engagement, no casualties, and no measurable loss of function. It didn't mention the silence. It didn't mention the fear, and it definitely didn't mention the countdown, because how do you archive the moment the galaxy realized it was no longer in charge? Empire High Command had purged most of the data. Scans. Deleted. Internal transcripts sealed. Every officer aboard the Crownlight was debriefed, reassigned, and officially labeled mentally unfit for near-border duty. They weren't punished, but they were marked. They had seen something. Command couldn't risk them spreading it, because if the rest of the Empire learned what truly happened in that sector, if the truth leaked out, panic would tear through the galactic core like fire through dry oxygen. So they buried it. Just like they had buried so many things before. But this time, something remembered. Rel Tharn was relocated to a quiet diplomatic station above a mining moon. No title, no duties. Just endless, polished corridors and thin stars stretching beyond the glass. He didn't sleep much, not because of trauma, because every time he closed his eyes, he saw the message again. This is not the beginning of war. It is the end of pretending. He never figured out if it meant pretending they were powerful or pretending they were alone. Both felt equally true now. Elsewhere, subtle changes rippled through policy. Trade routes diverted away from old Terran borders. Scout missions were quietly reassigned. The word archive vessel was officially banned from council documents. No one used it out loud either. They didn't need to. The memory did all the work, and soon, even the most arrogant empires began issuing silent orders. If it reappears, do nothing. Let it pass. Let it look. But something had shifted on Earth, too. They hadn't claimed responsibility, hadn't celebrated, hadn't even acknowledged the event. But their networks flinched the moment it happened. Some ancient node lit up in the Maafa, deep crust beneath the Himalayas for 3 seconds, then shut off again like it had exhaled. And someone in N, Earth's orbital defense ring, noticed something on an encrypted log. A flagged name. Not human. Not alien. Just return. One of the older texts said it felt like a door had closed somewhere, but no one remembered opening it. In a dusty observation dome above the Martian cliffs, a child sat alone and watched the stars flicker. His father used to tell him stories of Earth's old wars, of Terran ships that didn't look like ships, of weapons that weren't designed to kill, but to remind. The child asked once, "Remind of what?" His father had just smiled. Of what happens when silence answers back. And somewhere, far from any charted sector, a ship drifted. No engine trails. No signal flare. Just presence. It didn't seek. It didn't flee. It witnessed a derelict. Colony Station blinked on the edge of its trajectory. No power for decades. Its last inhabitants had died screaming into the void. When their oxygen fields collapsed. The ship passed it. Slowed. And when it left, the lights came back on. No crew returned. But every screen on the station now showed a single symbol, a hand. Open. Not clenched. Not raised. Just watching. On the homeworld of the Varn Dominion, a statue was quietly dismantled. It had stood for 2 centuries, celebrating their victory in the skirmish of Earthfringe, where they claimed to have repelled Terran aggression. The official story said they won, but the soldiers who came back had never spoken again, and now, after the event with the archive ship, the new generation no longer believed the old lies. They melted the statue down, recast it. Now, it showed a figure kneeling, not in defeat. In understanding. It took time. But the Empire learned. Not because it wanted to, because it had to. They rewrote policy. They redrew maps. They redefined war. The archive ship had not destroyed anything, but it had changed everything. Not by force. By being seen. One day, years later, a small planetary outpost on the edge of Empire space picked up an anomaly. Something approaching. No ID. No propulsion. The captain ordered weapons locked, but the second officer said, quietly, "Don't." The room froze. The captain asked, "Why?" The second officer just pointed. On the screen. The ship wasn't shaped like anything. It was just a shadow across stars, but it bore a symbol barely visible, scratched into its edge. A countdown. Frozen. At 0. The second officer stared and said, "They already told us. This isn't war." No one fired, and the ship passed them by. Back on Earth, beneath an ocean trench no map acknowledged, a single voice flickered on a sealed channel. No crew. No listener. Just a presence speaking to the dark. We don't need to speak again. They'll remember. Then silence. Again. Perfect. Poised. And final. Because the archive ship wasn't a message. It was the receipt. Record. Of how close the galaxy had come. To waking something that no longer needed to roar. Because it had learned the power of letting others hear their own echoes.